Hi everyone, so today I'm going to do the correction for the calculator challenge. So let's just move straight to the point. The calculator challenge. The question actually says that you are building the audit log tracking calculator for an accounting desk. The calculator must keep a running history of all financial adjustments processed during the day, and it must run continuously until an explicit exit command is given. So the main purpose of this program is that we are to create a program that will run indefinitely until we actually give it a command to stop. And the main architect of that program is that we need to store every valid numeric adjustment into a Go slice, which will act as a transaction history ledger, and we are required to build and call the following custom function signature in order to drive the core engine. So we have they gave us two functions here. The first one is called the function execution operator, and the second one is called the function which is called print history. So what they are saying that we need to create these two functions. So I'm just going to copy the starter code, which is this. Just going to copy these two functions. I'm going to paste it here. You understand? So I'm just going to complete this function. Since this is just going to put the curly braces, I'm also just going to put the curly braces. So don't forget that we need to return something here, which is what? Float 64. We need to return a float. So just for now, just to make it a placeholder, I'll just write return is 0.0 for now. So this is not returning anything, so I don't really have to write anything there. Now let's move to the engine rules and flow. The question says that we need to state, that is, the state says that we need to initialize a running total variable of 0.0, that is, we need to have a variable called total. So I'm just going to come here and say that my total is equal to 0.0. Right? We are done with that. The second thing is that, and we need an empty float slice to hold the history. So we need a variable called history, which we hold an empty slice of float. So I'm just going to write my float 64. Don't forget the curly braces. So now we are done with the two. The question now continues. It said that continuously prompt the user for an operation keyword. It says continuously. So when we want something to continue indefinitely, definitely we are talking about what? About for loop. We're talking about a loop. And the loop should be a what? An infinite loop. Not totally infinite, but at least a semi-infinite loop. So what are we going to use? We are going to use the for loop, which will serve as if we are using while loop. So I'm just going to come here and say that my for, I already taught you guys how to write all these things. So this is my for loop, which is a for while, which is also similar as if I'm using while loop. So this is my for loop. Now, inside the for loop, the question is that we need to prompt the user for operational keyword add, sub, multiply, division, history, or exist. As you can see in the expected terminal here. So the first thing we need to show, if you check the expected terminal, is the current balance, which is this. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to type my fmt.print inside my for loop. So I'm just going to say fmt.print line, and what I want to print is this, enter the current balance. So after the current balance, we have another command there, which is enter command. So in this enter command, we still need another fmt, right? So I'm just going to say fmt.print line. I'm going to use printf this time around. No, print line, yes, I'm going to use print line. In this one, I'm supposed to use printf so that I can just substitute the value. So we're going to use printf here. Since we are dealing with decimal, I'm just going to say %.2f. So outside there, I'm going to write my total. Yes, my total. We are done with that. So the second question says that we need to print the enter command. So I'm just going to come here, copy all this, Ctrl+C, then paste it here. Now we have the print line set up. Now since we are asking the user to input a value, so we need to use the fmt.scan to collect the data from the console. So I'm just going to say that fmt.scan, and what do I want to scan? I want to scan, okay, I have not created the variable, so we need to create a variable here so that we can actually store the user input. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to come here and name the variable something. Maybe let's just name it variable. Since we are getting value, let me just name it value. So the variable will be called value, and I'm going to give it a data type of, is it, yes, we are dealing with float, so I'm just going to give it float 64. So now I can simply say that, and what, oh sorry, it's supposed to be command. We are asking for the command, not the value. So I'm just going to, I'll just leave this one, create another one, variable. I can call it cmd, the command, yes, the command that we want to pass. So I just say that the command is what, is a string. I'll just call it string. So this fmt.scan will just pass in the and what, and cmd, which is for the command. That is, we are passing a command, which is the cmd, and we are storing that input into the what, into the variable called cmd. You understand? Now moving forward, the next thing we are going to do here is that we already created the variable which is called value. So we just need to create a question which will be enter value. Now, according to the instructions say that continuous prompt the user for operation keyword. The next thing is that for math operations, prompt the user to input the modified value via fmt.scan. That is, we are only going to show this enter value if the user enters something that's related to math operations, which means if the user writes something else, maybe history or exist, we don't have to ask the user for any value. So which means inside this place, I've just used my condition. You can see it's an operation logic. So I just say that if what, I'll just check if the cmd, that is the command, if the command is equal to let me just think how I can do this. I think since the commands must be add, sub, multiply or division, so if it's not any of the four, so we can just use, if the cmd is equal to exist, I can start with exist. So if the cmd is equal to what, is equal to exist, everything small letter, exist. So if the cmd is equal to exist, so what will happen? If the cmd is exist, that is, the user actually typed the text exist. We want to do something. Is there a condition for that? We can just check the expected output. So this is the condition for exist. If the user type exist like this, you can see here, you see the enter command, and if the user type exist, so we are just going to say substation audit finish and all these things. So I'll just copy all these things. I don't want to stress myself. Just copy it. So I just say fmt.print. Just use print line. Then I will paste everything here. So I'll just join everything together using this /n. Join everything together again using /n. So what am I doing here? You can see I'm just repeating these words. I'm repeating it. Now we have I think we have an issue here. The issue is that when the user type exists, we still want to show the closing balance. As you can see here, we have 4000.10. So I'm just going to come here and write %.2f. So I don't need to explain all this because if you actually reach this stage, I believe you're already familiar with all these things that I'm doing. It's not strange, right? It is just a normal printf. So we have the fmt.printf. So here I'm going to just put another new line so that the next one can be in another new line. So, and in this %.2f, since we are dealing with closing balance, which is going to be the total balance, the actual total balance. So I'm just going to put comma, which is going to be the total balance, which is going to be our total. Definitely. So this is what we did here. If the command is called to exist, that is, if the user actually type exists, we want to do what? We want to print this, all these things. We want to print it, and this is what I put inside this printf. So after printing it, definitely we want to stop the program because the user type what? Exist. So after this printing, I'll just use my what? My break. Don't forget, I already taught you guys the break. So I'm just going to use break. So this break will actually break this for loop. Now we are done with that. Then we can check the second one, which is the what? The history. And check the history. So what if it is history? So we can just leave that for now. Or let's just solve it. We can just say that, okay, oh, if it is actually history, so I can say that if cmd is equal to what? History. If cmd is equal to history, so what will happen? I want I'm coming. If it is history, so we are going to print. If it is history, we are definitely going to print this history because the user actually wants an history. You can see here we have enter command. If it is history, then we print a transaction history log. So I'm just going to call this print history function. I think it is in the question. They say it explicitly. Let me check. Okay, the history intercept. If the user inputs history, pass the slice to print history. You can see that. So I'll just say that I'll just call the history function, which is print history. That's all for that. And after that, don't forget the question says that if the user input history, pass the slice to the history to output the transaction log, then continue the loop. That is, once we print the history, we want the loop to do what? To continue. That is, we want the loop to move to the next iteration. That is starting from the starting point again. So I just use my words, my continue. So I don't have to be explaining all this thing because I believe if you actually took the previous lessons, you don't have problem with all these things. You are already familiar with it. So we already have the CMD here and we have the print history, which actually continues. So the next thing is that I'm just going to let's take the next question. So we have handled the exist and we have handled the history. So the remaining part is all this add, sub, multiplication and division. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use, should I use a for loop? No. So we can actually just create the save the history inside this history slice. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, because according to the question says that if the user save the modified value directly into your history ledger slice using the built-in append function. This is, we can save it into the slice using the what? Append function. So I'll just move straight to the point here. Now I don't have to use s here, and I have two main reasons why I decided not to use s here. Here's the first reason. If the user actually type exists, the loop will stop immediately after it reaches this point, which means this will not even run. So, and if this is not true, and if this is true, definitely anything I write below here will not run, because automatically it will move to the next iteration. That is, it will start again from the what? From the beginning. I believe that is clear. So we can actually test it. Let me just try this little code so that you can see what happened. Although currently we don't have anything in the history, let me just print something like fmt.print line. So this is going to be in the history. So let's just run this code. Okay, let's try it. I think we might have a little problem. So we have some values we created. We declare and not use, string imported, and we are not using it. So let me just comment all this not use problem that we have. Just comment the history. We declare value, we did not use it. Comment. What again? Not enough arguments. The print history. Okay. This print history actually collects an argument which is called ledger float 64. So I can just definitely come here and pass in the history, which is this history. So I can comment this one, just pass in the history here. history. I believe you understand this. There is nothing special here. At least I already do the basic explanation, so I don't have to repeat myself. So here we have the history. That is, we are passing an argument called history to the function that we created, which is expected to take a parameters, which is called what? A ledger. So we are passing the history into this print history in order to print that history. Although we are not printing it yet, we are just printing a normal text which says I'm in the history. So let's just run this code and test it again. Now we have something say that current balance, enter command. Actually, I want this current balance to be in a new line. Let me just use my /n. I want it to be in a new line. So let's run this again. So we have current balance, which is 0, you can see it is similar to this, and we have enter a command, add, sub, multiply, division, history, and exist. So if I type exist and press enter, you can see we have the same thing here. We have exist. I think I can actually give it a simple space. I want a space between this exist and this one so that it can actually look the same. Although it's not compulsory, but I just like my work to be more neater or more neat. I'm just, where is the exist? Okay, we have the exist here. I've just put a line here, so that it can make more sense. So let me just run this code again. So, and this time I'm going to type, let's wait for it, service. Let me just type exist again. So here you can see we have the space here, and it's almost look the same thing, or they are the same thing. So we are done with that. We confirm that our exist is working, and you can actually try the history also. So let me just try the history, and I just type history, and you can see in the history we have the history. Okay, I think I'm missing something. If you notice, we are having a new line at the end of each loop. We are having a new line at the end of each loop. Definitely we are having a new line at the end of each loop. So I'm going to do that. Let's just leave it for now. Let's just leave the styling for now. So it works, right? I'm in the history current. We have a timeout because I not press anything. So we have history, and we have another history, in history, and so on and so forth. So we can just move straight to the point. Let's just continue with the job. We have confirmed that this thing is working. So the next thing that I'm going to do is that, since we declare our CMD, which is equal to history, and we print our history, and we continue and so forth, so far. So the next thing is that we are going to let me just deal with this history first. Let me just set up this history. So since our history is actually receiving a ledger, which is of float 64, so according to this, we need to print a transaction ledger fee. So this is what we need to print. I just copy it from here. We need to print this. So I just come here, use my fmt dot print line. Print line. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, the print line, and in this print line we have to print this transaction ledger. So just a Control S and print the transaction ledger so that it can simulate this. Then we have, I notice that in every test we actually have a single line. I'll just leave it like that for now. So you can actually give it a new line here so that you can have the space. So we need to print this log. So I'm just going to use the log. Since we need to print the log, I'm just going to use my for loop, because this is a slice of float, don't forget, and in the slice of float we can actually have more than one history. It's just a log file. You can have more than one history. So I have to use loop in order to loop through that history. You understand? So I'm just going to say the for I, should I use for? Let me just use for I. For I and ch character in range. I just use the for range. In range, this is a float, it's a slice. It is more reasonable for me to use a for range loop. So I'll just from the ledger. Now, don't forget the index stays in the what, in the I, and we have log 1. That means it will be log I. So I just use my fmt fmt.printf printf, and I'm going to say that my box of log %d for decimal number, then this, and we have the percentage, what I can just use percentage 0.2f for the fractional decimal. So it's going to take I and it's going to take ch. I believe that's all. So now we have set up this log. We have already set it up, and lastly we have another line here. We have a line here, so which I have to draw again. So I just use my fmt dot print line. So it's going to be like this. Okay, so we have set up the history. You can actually test it. Just test it out. Let me run the code. The current balance is 00. Enter, add some. I just want to print the history. So the history, you can see now we have the transaction ledger and we have the current balance. Wait. Where did I make a mistake? Oh, there is nothing in our total balance. You understand? We have nothing inside this history. So that is why we are not seeing anything, because we have nothing. Definitely we don't have anything inside it. And I actually want to print this ... after everything has finished again. Just going to say Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V. So I'm going to print the larger one, that it can simulate the exact styling. So let's run the code again. So we have the history, and now we don't have anything inside the history because we don't have any data available yet. So I can just exist. Good. Now the next thing we are going to do now is that we are done with the history. We have set up the function called print history, which actually prints the history out. Sorry. The next question is that we actually need to create the add, sub, multiplication and division function. We need to create that. So how am I going to do that? So how am I going to do that? The best way for me to do this is that in this execute operation, we already have a function here which says that its name is what? Execute operation, and it's taking 3 different arguments. One is called the current total, that is this total. The second one is called operator, that is the operator that the user passes in, which is the cmd, which is the command. And we have the value, which is the value that the user what? The user enter. So how am I going to do this? And don't forget here, the question says that if the question says that we need to save, where is it? I want to say something like history append. Okay, it said that we need to save the modified value directly into your history ledger. That is, any number that the user inputs, we need to save it inside the what? Inside the history ledger. So what am I going to do? After this, I'm going to move to the next one, and I'm going to call it what should I call it? I don't think I need to call anything. I just need to append. I'll just call the history. So I just say history is equal to append. What do I want to append? I want to append the value that the user enters. So I usually say that I want to append to history, and what I want to append is the what? Value. That's just it. So this, we actually append anything the user type, any value that the user type, it will append it to the what? To the history slice that we have here. So the next thing is that I'm just going to move straight to the function. I will call this function, which is the execute operation function. So just say that, okay, execute operation. Now don't forget, it says that this execute operation is going to return a what? A float, and this float is definitely going to be the output of the calculation that we run inside this function. So the output is definitely still going to be our total. Maybe we sub from the total, we multiply the total, or we add to the total. So definitely we are going to have the total. So I'm just going to come here and say that total, since we are returning, I want to save that return into the total. So I just say that my total is equal to execute operation. Now I need to pass in the argument. The first argument says that it needs the current total, which is flow 64, which is our what? Our total here. So I'm just going to pass in the total. The second argument says that it needs the operators. So what is our operators? Our operators is saved in the command string. So I'm just going to say cmd. So the next one is what? Is the value. And what is the value here? And our value is definitely value. Wow. I haven't created the what's it called? I haven't created the value yet. So I need to create the value. I haven't created the value. So I need to create the value using enter value prompt here. So I'm just going to copy here enter value. So just use my fmt.print. I think it's supposed to be around here. So fmt.print line. And what do I want to print? I want to print the what? Enter value. You can see. So after entering the value, we need to store the value. So we are going to use the fmt.scan and value. So which means anything that the user enters, we are going to store it inside the what? Inside the value. I believe that's clear. So we have the value set up, and here I can definitely call the what? Value. So now we have done all these things. The last part is that we need to finish this execution program. Let's finish the execution program. Now let's read the question again. In the execution program, the question says that save the modified value directly into your history ledger slides using the built-in append function. We have done that. We don't have any problem with that. So yeah, I believe you don't have problem with that. So here's the edge cases. If user attempt to divide by 0, intercept it inside your logic, display and split the error message, and use continue to bypass the built-in state or ledger. Anyhow, actually, if you actually read this carefully, the question wants us to modify the ledger directly from this function. Sorry. It wants us to modify this directly from this function. Although we can actually do that, but I don't see any purpose for me doing that. I'll just leave it like that. I don't have time. So here we have what's it called? We have the execution, the fmt.scan. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do here is that since we have our current total and the question, if you check this, if we add 2,500, we are definitely adding to this. If you say multiply, we are multiplying this value. If you say divide by 0, we send a critical error message. If you say what's this one? If you say sub, we are subtracting from it. So we can actually follow the same rules. So the first thing I'm going to use I'm going to use an if conditions. But I actually don't want to use if condition. I don't want to use if condition. Let's just use a switch case, because if condition will take me a lot of time to write the if this is this, else if this is this, if else this is this. I don't have the time. I just move straight to the point using my switch. So this is a great chance for you to learn switch. So you can definitely learn it. So I'll just say switch. So I turn on my switch, and what I want to check is the what? Is the operator, which is the CMD that the user passing. This operator, I just say that switch operator. So inside my switch operators, I want to check what the user types. So I will start with what? With the add, that is case. So if the user types the add. That means we want to add something up. So I just say that if user types add, what do we want to happen? I want to add the what's it called, the value to our current total. I'll just say that return current total plus what, plus value, definitely for the add, as simple as ABC. You can definitely check this, we can check it. Let us run this code first. So if I move back here and I click run, so let's just wait for it. Any issue? Missing return undefined value. Okay, we need to return something here. Let me just return 0.0 for now, and it says that we are missing undefined value 48. I definitely have value now. Wow. Okay, let me uncomment this one. So let's run it. So now we have enter a command, add, sub, multiply, division history exists. So we can test the add that we created here. I can say add, and after that add, enter value, I can say 500. So you can see we currently have 500 in our balance, and I definitely need a line after the end. You can see this, we are having a separator line, so which I actually need. I just come here, Control C. I need a line to separate after the total value. I'll just print a line here, just call it fmt dot print line. So use a separator line. So if I run this code again, so enter command, I type add, enter value, I type 400. You can see we have these lines like they have it here, and they say that the current balance, I actually wanted to have a new line, so I can just stop it, run the code again. So enter a command, add, enter value 400. You can see now we have the current balance is 400. You can see it's actually sub, it's actually add to our what, to our total balance, which is now 400. You can see that, which means it is actually working. So you can definitely do the same thing for other cases too. So to save time, I will just do Control C, Control V, Control V. I think we have 1 2 3 4. Control V. So this is going to be what? We're going to change this one to, here's the question. So we're going to change this one to sub. This one is going to be what? Multiply, MUL. And this one is going to be division, DIV. So here we are going to use the multiplication sign. Here we are going to use the what? The division sign. Also the minus sign. Where's the division? Okay, this is the division. Now, at the part of the division, if you actually check this question very well, the question says that I'm coming for the division part. I think an edge case control. If a user attempts to divide by 0, intercept it inside your logic, display an expected error message, and use continue to bypass updating. You don't really have to use continue according to this logic that I wrote. So this is what will happen here. If the user tries to divide by 0, because in mathematics dividing a number by 0 is impossible. You understand? So you just have to tell him that, alayo, this thing is what is impossible. You cannot divide by 0. So how am I going to do that? So I'm going to check the case of div. That is, if the case is division, so I'm going to check if the value, that is, if the value is equal to 0, then we need to do what? we need to stop because you cannot divide by 0. So you just have to print the error. Where's the error? We have the error here, critical error. Just going to do Ctrl C. I'm going to come here, fmt dot print line. I'm going to call it critical error mathematical, you cannot divide by 0. So I think that's it. So else is just going to return, if this is not true, then it will just return the division, which is supposed to be current total divided by what? Divided by value. So I believe we are done with that. We are done with that, yes. So we are done with our function. Are we done? I think that's all for the function. Yes, that's all for the function. So now here, instead of returning 0.0, we are just going to return, if all these are not met, we are just going to return the what? The total itself. So I believe we are done with that. Yes, we are done with that. So now let's move to the next part. We are done with our function. We are done with the print history, and we have set up the main function. I believe that's all. It's very simple and straightforward. So we can just test it. Let me test it. So let's undefined total. Sorry, I made a mistake here. It's supposed to be current total. Yes, current total. Current total. So just run the code again. Now enter. Let's assume I enter multiply. Enter value. Let's assume I enter 500. Now we have 0. Why? Because definitely 500 multiplied by 0 is going to give us 0. You understand? Which is correct. So let's say I have add and I enter 300. Now we have 300. I enter sub and I enter maybe 2. Wow, we have run out of infinite loops. So you actually have to be a little bit faster when you're using this thing, because by default I make a rules that your console can only run for 30 seconds. So within that 30 seconds, we have to enter everything that we want to enter. So let's just retry this. I will be a little bit more faster. So I'm going to add 400. So we have the 400. I'm going to sub. I'm going to sub 20. So we have 380. So I'm going to multiply by 2. So we have 760. I can actually check the history. We have the history, although our history is not looking perfectly. Our history is not looking perfectly. So I want our history to look more perfect. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come to the history. I think I need to give it a new line at the end so that it can look more perfect. So just put my new line here. So let me retry this again. We have add, which is 300. We have sub, I mean multiply by maybe 2. So I can use sub maybe by 10. I can print the history and I can say that exists. Wow, we just tested everything. So this is it. We have the current balance, initial current balance is 0, 0. So we add 300 naira to the current balance. So now the balance is 300, and we see have the enter command. We have multiply. We multiply the current balance by 2. So we have what? We have 600. Then we sub by 10. Now we have 590. Then we check the transaction history. You can see we have the log 0, which is 300. Log 1, which is 2. And the last log, which is what? 10. You can see that. And the current balance is now what? We have the current balance to CB 590. Now we now check the exit. We close the calculator and it says that substation audit finish, closing finance 590, which is this 590. Energy shutting down. Wow. So I believe we are done with this. We are done with this. So it's very straightforward and so simple. There is nothing special there. Just a simple calculator trick. So we can just submit it to check if there is nothing wrong with the code. Wow. What did I made wrong? What did I do wrong? I think I have done something wrong. We have add, multiply by 2, division by 7, history, and exist. Expected balance. Current balance. Here is my own expected output. This is the expected output. And what is my own output? Enter value. I want to see where the mistake is. Yes, 2050 current balance 501.00. Yes, 501.00. Yes. Let's have a critical error. Mathematical division by 0 intercepted. Division by 0 intercepted, which is also correct. So where is the problem? Transaction history ledger. Wow. Why is my current balance saying plus if? I can see something called saying plus if here. I say the value is not valid. We have an issue here. Plus if. We have a very bad issue here. I think we actually made a mistake somewhere, so I need to check to confirm, to make sure that we did not make any mistake. Okay, I see where the issue is. The issue is here. You know that we said that if the value is equal to 0, we just say that it should print, and after that we still say that it should return. That is, we are doing two things. We're supposed to use else here. Else is either one of the two. Is either you just print, or you do what, or you successfully just return this. So is that one of the two? Sorry, is that one of the two? Is either we do the what's it called? Is either we do the printing for error, and if there is no error, definitely we want to return. Sorry, my bad, my mistake. So let's run the code. No, we are not running the code. Let's just submit the code again. You can see, so everything is passed. All directive met successfully. So thank you for staying till the end. Meet you in the next lesson.